So, Kingdom Eighties, huh? Apparently people are liking it, but I didn't. Okay, so to understand why I didn't like Kingdom Eighties, you have to understand how the Kingdom series works in general. It's a relaxing game, it's very self-insert inducing. I often find myself creating dialogue between my ruler and the archers or something, and creating stories between them while I play, because it doesn't have any dialogue, so you can just go wild with what you imagine. And it's really relaxing also because it takes a while. It takes hours and hours and hours that I just stare at this very calming environment with this calming song, and I love it for that. And I love resource management, and it's a very big resource management game. And the problem with Kingdom Eighties is that the devs threw it all out of the window. Okay, so I checked like the first post on the Kingdom 80s game page new stuff, and it already mentioned that it would be story driven, so I guess we were just fooling ourselves, but yeah, it doesn't change the fact that I didn't like it. The first problem was the story. The story is so like, yes, King, give us nothing. I mean, we wake up, like, we show up in a camp, and the kid we are controlling wants to go back home. And we make friends, and they all have different abilities. We get a bunch of phone calls throughout the game. The kid's parents are locked up in a mall, and they tell him that when they were constructing the mall, they found like that statue from Kingdom 2 Crowns. And apparently the crown is magic, like the monsters were being held back by the magic crown, and then the crown fell because they were excavating there, and now the greed are back, and the kid we're controlling is a descendant from the kings and queens of old, and it's his destiny to rid the world of the greed. It's so generic. This is what I mean. It's so generic. I couldn't care less. The characters are so generic. Like, you cannot make a short game that you advertise as being focused on the story when the story is not good. The characters aren't good. The characters are blank slates, but they're not blank slate enough for me to immerse myself and make up conversations. And, like, who cares, you know? I don't care about these characters, I don't care about the story, I don't care. I don't care. Also, I hated that the crown is magical. No, my efforts in the other games are magical. It's not the crown. It's me. I did that. For reasons we will discuss shortly, this game really needed a good story, and it doesn't. The second problem is this game is ridiculously easy. I got the complete the game in less than 50 days achievement in my cursed run, which is the highest difficulty in the game, and I didn't even break a sweat. Number one cause is the resource management, because, you know, the resources are everywhere, there's too much of them, and changing the difficulty doesn't alter that. At least I didn't notice it. Changing the difficulty only alters the prices of things and the amount of enemies that attack, from what I could tell. Prime example is how camps work in the other games and how kids spawn in this game. In other games, camps are in the middle of the forest, and if you chop down the trees around it, it's gonna fall apart and no other people are gonna spawn there anymore. So you really have to consider if it's worth it to advance your kingdom, to chop down those trees. In Kingdom 2 Crowns, it is a little bit easier because you can reconstruct the camp, but the people there are much more expensive. But, it's resource management. You have to think if something is worth it, if you need to do that. If you don't need to do that, how can you not do that? And then we have how kids spawn in Kingdom 80s. Chopping down trees doesn't alter anything. They just keep showing up. And they just keep showing up. So you never have a shortage of people. Also, the dumpster. Jesus, Mary and Joseph, the dumpster. In this game, just like in the other kingdoms, you have to destroy portals, but the difference is that in other games... I'm losing my mind. The difference is that in other games, you send your knights with the archers, and they destroy a portal, and then the greed attack you, and then you have to survive, you have to regroup, you have to attack other portals. But in Kingdom 80s, you have the dumpster, which you control. You can move back and forth with the dumpster. It is basically a knight. It's like a shield for your archers. But the problem is that it's indestructible. This also saves up coins, because with knights, if they died, you had to spend 4 coins on a new shield, 10 or 12 coins on a new sword, and then fill them up with 8 coins, I think. And in this game, it's just a dumpster. I think it's 5 coins. If it breaks, which is very unlikely because you control the dumpster. You can just keep going back. If a strong enemy shows up, you just pull the dumpster back while the archer shoots, and you're never gonna get hit. I've done that multiple times. I think my dumpster only broke down once in the cursed difficulty, because I tried to take on a wave of greed that attacked me after I destroyed a portal, and I wasn't strong enough to deal with that. But only in the cursed difficulty, only in the 4th level, You can just keep marching on. You destroy a portal, you keep going, you deal with the wave right there, and you keep going, because the dumpster, the jock of your team, he pushes the dumpster, and then there's a girl who repairs it. So anytime you don't have any enemies attacking you, she repairs it automatically. You don't even have to pay. You can just keep going and going and going, and period. And it isn't just a dumpster, because you get the hacker sort of character in the 2nd level, and he builds like a robot which also attacks. So you got the dumpster, you got the archers, and you got the giant robot attacking also. And also the mechanic, she pushes greed back, and when the jock isn't pushing the dumpster, he attacks greed and he kills greeds. There are just so many of those power-ups. Also, the hacker character, you can build... they serve the same function as the towers in the other Kingdom games. Basically, you can build towers outside of your walls to help out with killing more greed, so that when they arrive at your wall, they don't destroy it because there's less of them. It's the same thing, but you don't need archers. It's just a laser gun. And you can build a barricade around it, so it works almost like a wall. You don't even have to worry about the workers not making it back or anything, because it's the hacker who built it. It's the hacker who built it. And the barricade, it's the mechanic. You don't have... You see what I mean? These things, each one of them is a great advantage, but they add up so quickly that the game is simply too easy. And also, it's so easy to get money because there is no farming, and basically when you expand your walls, you can build like a pizzeria, or not build, put back in business the pizzeria, the arcade, and any builders and any kids who aren't archers, who don't have anything on them, will just automatically work on those stations and make money. So you never don't have money. It's too easy. Keep in mind that I have like a very basic script in front of me. I'm doing most of this from memory, and I probably forgot something else that makes the game easier. And as a consequence of that, the game is... The first time I played it, I think I finished it in like 5 hours. But I played on hard, and I literally didn't have any spoilers. I didn't know how to play the game. I didn't know how it was different from the other kingdoms. So I took my time. This is how many hours I spent on the other games. This is how many hours I spent on Kingdom 80s. And by the way, the only reason why I didn't 100% it is because I couldn't be bothered to learn what exactly I was supposed to do for this achievement. I just couldn't. I didn't care, you know. Some people are even saying that the game was designed so that you can't get a refund, because for those who don't know, on Steam you can get a refund if you played less than 2 hours of a game. And some people were like, well, I finished it in a little over 2 hours and it feels in bad faith. It's just a bad look when you make a game that is just long enough that people can't get a refund, you know? It is ugly. It is ugly. Over the years, Kingdom has been zooming out the screen more and more and more, and now they zoomed it out even more. But in the other games, I didn't mind it as much because everything is super beautiful, and it's really easy to identify what is just a part of the scenery and what is interactable. But in Kingdom 80s, I have no idea. Everything is too small. There's too much of things. I can't see. The kids are like 2 pixels tall and I have to recruit them. Come on, game, please help me out. Everything just feels like a mishmash of pixels. It kind of gets lost, you know. It's ugly. It's ugly. And also, I feel like I'm alone on this one, but I just can't stand the 80s nostalgia anymore. It's been going on for like, what? Almost 10 years now, if you count the beginning of it with the release of Five Nights at Freddy's. That was literally 9 years ago. I am ready for it to stop. I hope that you can see that even if you see Kingdom 80s as a standalone game and not part of this franchise that has this whole story of, you know, a type of game and then they made a completely different one, it's still bad. It is not worth your money, which brings me to problem 5. This game is $12, which is not crazy expensive, but it is not worth it. And I feel ripped off. Apparently, this was kind of planned from the start. So I already told you that it was meant to be story-driven from the start. And in this Q&A from the 24th of June, one of the developers says that it's gonna be single player. So I'm so sorry, girlies, who thought it would support 4 players. He also said that it was going to be linear from the start. I'm not gonna go over every single unkept promise because, you know, game development do be like that. But I thought that was pretty funny when he said that each location would have a new challenge. Like, technically, yeah, but mechanically, it is exactly the same thing over and over again. But it is interesting that this was the plan. This game was the plan all along, and they just did it. I really hope that it is updated and they at least tweak the difficulty a little bit, because as it is right now, it is not good. Okay, so I was assembling the parts to make this video, and I saw that there was a patch update on July 17th. So I was like, let me see what they did, because maybe I'll look like a fool. And so his general fixes: your archers will now defend your entire kingdom if there is a blood moon and there is a retaliation wave happening simultaneously, instead of stacking at the blue moons. At the blood moon side only. Your archers will no longer sometimes stop attacking while taking part in a siege assault. The champ no longer gets stuck in a running animation when you pay to activate the siege dumpster just before exiting the cave. Fixed an issue that prevented players from picking up their dropped crowns after loading a save. Grid portals should no longer spawn so close to the camp that you are prevented from building your innermost wall. Let us know if the problem persists when you generate a new map. The Champs Trophy event in episode 1 will now always trigger correctly when paid for. Accessing the cave in episode 1 without your crown will now trigger game loss correctly, instead of causing a freeze. The Tinkerer can no longer get stuck in a walking animation by the cave in episode 2. The workers will no longer drop the canoe as soon as the siege dumpster is destroyed or abandoned in the cave in episode 1, which would sometimes leave the canoe out of reach. Fixed an issue that would cause the player to be stuck in the cave after fulfilling the victory conditions in episode 4. You can now leave the cave in episode 4 at any time, allowing you to regroup and try again after a failed siege assault. And then there's achievement fixes. So like everything I said, nothing was fixed. This is kind of like, guys, are you serious? Have you not realized that there's a balance issue in this game? Okay. Thank you for watching, and I'm gonna post more videos if an anvil doesn't fall on my head. Bye!